potpourri, pounds and pounds of pungently perfumed petals of pertinent points piled precariously in a pot for your pleasure. That's perfume. Thank you, darling. Thank you. It's not bad for a foreigner. That perfume is a clue. Just smell that Camel Paris, the fragrant Calibitum. The pungent Rod Gilbert. Fruity Phil Jupiter. Unmistakable waft of geranium, leather, moss, coffee, toasted cheek. Went into the shower, and I have a video of me and Daniel Craig in the shower doing the ice bucket challenge.
Do you spend your whole time waiting for showbiz men to be naked?
Did he come out wearing a very short dressing gown?
Sandy, I thought I understood you, but I'm
like a magnet. He was perfectly charming. Now, to give the show a bit of a fillip, there have been 2 King Philips of Macedon, 6 King Philips of Spain, 6 King Philips of France, and of course, 1 King Philip of Cuba. But when will we get a King Philip of England?
No. Not never. Never say never. In the future.
No, not in the future.
We've had one.
We've had one, but he is not normally taught in the school of rights. King Philip of England reigned for 4 years, 1554 to 1558. He was actually King Philip II of Spain, but he was King of England and Ireland by virtue of his marriage to Queen Mary, so not consort like Elizabeth's Prince Philip, but actually crowned king in his own right. So both their places were joint. Parliament was called under their joint authority, and he actually lived in England just under a year, July 1554. He married her, he was 27. It's kind of an odd thing. He only spoke Castilian Spanish. So what modern marriage is that in the fact that you an interpreter. I want to call it when she died, he wrote, I felt a reasonable regret of her death.
Maybe it's better in Spanish.
He proposed marriage to her half sister, Elizabeth.
Classic.
Philippines are named after him in Spanish.
Very slim legs.
Photoshopped his head up to the right side. In the potpourri show, it's finally time for a bit of potpourri. Potpourri show.
Potpourri, yeah.
And time for a bit of potpourri. Yes, you see. Why would you say the Pope's name 3 times and then whack his ring with a hammer?
here's a ring.
Because he forgot the safe word.
Bloody marvellous. Aislingby. And the never knowingly premature Alan Davis. Nicky goes. Ashton goes. Oh, and Alan goes.
I do dream that noise.
Question one, of course, is all about procrastination itself. So I'm sorry, hang on. The elves are telling me that they haven't got around to writing the procrastination questions yet. So we're going to have to use the emergency backup questions that I've got here. Just a second. I don't think these have ever been used. Wow. Here we are. Oh, got some questions. Alan, that's a picture of Arsenal winning the Premier League.
Picture of Tottenham Hotspur winning it.
I have no idea why that's funny. These are my small footballing jokes there. Okay, so instead, a question on parenting. What's the best thing to do about a crying baby?
If it's on a plane, put it in a soundproof box. What we started doing was my son had quite bad nappy rash, and
Clean it, just clean the baby.
Yeah. All right, super nanny. So what we started doing was, before we put him back in his nappy, we'd get our hairdryer and we'd just blow dry his naked bum like this. And then that started to work too well.
Yeah.
And
Burns?
no, it wasn't. No, then we realised that if we just blow dried his balls with our hairdryer, he would go to sleep like that. And
Sounds like a very good idea. You can pick it up on a sort of a hook at the end of the bed. I'm thinking of myself. I'm saying this out loud, aren't I?
He's grown up, darling. There's going to be so much trouble.
I think we've almost certainly given him a fetish.
He's going to be unable to walk past the hairdressers.
Every stone, you know those Marilyn Monroe great. I'll never get him off.
If you use a full hairdresser, Holly, be like, sorry, going anywhere nice to holiday. Well, I have to say that things have changed very much in terms of how we actually approach the whole thing. There was an American pediatrician called Dr. Walter J. Sackett Jr., and he basically suggested that you should ignore crying babies. He wrote a bestseller in 1962 called Bringing Up Babies, A Family Doctor's Practical Approach to Childcare, and he said if you didn't ignore crying babies, they would grow up to be socialists. If we teach our offspring to expect everything to be provided on demand, we must admit the possibility of sowing the seeds of socialism.
That is your worst nightmare.
Well, since 1962 was the year of the Cuban Missile Crisis. America was paranoid about the communist threat from around the world.
And the solution was leave all the babies crying on their own.
Yeah, exactly. And he also prescribed early feeding. He recommended that you give babies cereal at 2 days, vegetables at 10 days, meat at 14, and finally at 9 weeks, bacon and eggs just like Dad.
Is a baby digestible? I don't think we should be. So I'm just checking.
Anyway, he decided to work intensely. He said, to my mind, the dairies of America constitute the #1 health hazard. He recommended giving babies black coffee. 6 months. That's a lot. How many children? He did have children. Where are they now? But there are other books that are even worse. In 1916, The Mother and Her Child by Doctors Lena and William Sadler, they advised avoiding physical contact with infants except when spanking. And crying, again, should be ignored unless the baby cried hard enough to go black in the face or burst a blood vessel. Yeah, at which point a sound spanking should be administered. Marvelously titled The Science of Eugenics, if you want to read that. Written in 1920 by Dr. B.J. Jeffries and J.L. Nichols, warned pregnant women not to look at or think about ugly things or people, or their child will turn out ugly. And the best way to quiet a crying baby, gin.
You get the gin or the baby? Is it a hat?
It is a hat, yes. Put that on. Now, my question is, what activity is Alan now perfectly dressed to do?
Is it a tackle hat? At parties, sometimes they get people to walk around. Hard hat and a dip in the centre.
When you
Feels
do,
like a bicycle tire.
okay, when you do know what it is, you'll be horrified at the thought of serving dip from this.
Is it a contraceptive?
So it's exactly the reverse of a contraceptive.
It's an erection hat.
It is kind of an erection. Yes. Okay. So this is. I'm very pleased because it's for a falcon. Falcon 6. And it was invented to save the American falcon from extinction. So the American trainer plays this hat and encourages the bird to mate with his king. It's that. So in the 1970s, the whole species was threatened to be wiped out. The pesticides were damaging their eggs, and so a captive... It does absolutely work. A captive breeding program was set up. So here's the problem. Falcons are usually more attracted to their owners than they are to other birds. It's a phenomenon called imprinting. So when a young falcon comes out of its egg, it gets attached to the very first thing it sees. It could be a rubber boot, or it could be an electric train, it could be anything.
How about a hairdryer?
Yes. Quite often it is the owner. So they want to mate. They want to mate with their carers, and the hat is invented to catch the resulting semen. It can be collected, I know. The thing you're wearing, as I said, you don't want to eat dip out of it. No. The thing you're wearing,
Falcon ejaculate.
it's got little tiny pockets in it. The falcon wants to mate, and it goes onto the hat because it likes the owner, and you can catch the semen from those little tiny pockets. And it totally works. The 1970s population. Over 6,000 peregrine falcons have now been released into the US. Let's have a quick look at an actual video of the hat. So that noise is being made by the owner.
I'd say this is the most niche pornography.
How bored the guy looks.
It looks like he's not on a potato waffle.
That hat has seen a lot of action because it's badly worn out.
It copulates into one of the indentations, the same as you've got on your hat. It comes in a range of colours. And that
Comes in a range of colours. One of the best things about a falcon.
It's one of those things where I congratulate the person who invented it, but I never want to meet them in public. How did you come up with that? I'm going to come up with, frankly, a jizz hat for falcons.
Welcome to Jessica to John Barry! Please! You're looking at me! I'm 84! Right, who's wearing the crotchless pants in this relationship?
Oh, sorry, I thought you were buzzing.
No, in this relationship, yeah.
I'm going to go the one on the right.
Albert?
Oh, is it Victoria and Albert?
It is Albert, Victoria and Albert, yes.
Well, maybe it's Victoria then.
It is Victoria. When do we think underwear began? When was the first started wearing underwear?
The loincloth, the early loincloth.
Yeah, the early ones. So certainly in Roman times, people had underwear.
Jockey wines.
But it fell out of favour for centuries. And in Britain, men got underwear, so you're talking about kind of drawers and knickerbockers. But for centuries, women did not wear it at all. And when they did finally, so we're talking the 19th century, it was crotchless. So two separate legs hanging open underneath and held together by a belt around the waist. and you don't get them sewn together until 1876. I have no idea what happened that year. Someone went, I am not having this breeze. But it didn't become the norm to have a crotch in your underwear until 1910.
But it wasn't someone's sexual peccadillo to have crotchless panties at that point.
It was practical, really, as well. Going to the toilet was very difficult when you had multiple layers of clothing, and they would have been considered very unhygienic. There's very early evidence about the Roman underwear, so there's a 4th century mosaic which is found in the Villa Romana del Casale in Sicily. I think it looks more like a bikini, don't you think?
Yeah.
There's a possibly even earlier one, which is from Upper Egypt, 6,000-7,000 years ago. It's called the Badari figure. Which do you think it looks more like she's got a big bush?
Some sort of a brick wall, by the way. We'll draw a stone wall around there, imagine. Must be tight, look at her eyes.
Yeah, she is. 2015, a pair of Queen Victoria's underpants sold for £12,000, and they were exactly able to date these pants. How do you think they could date them? So here's one of the extraordinary things about Victoria's detailed photographic record of her life. And so they could work out by the waistband when it was, because she just got flatter.
She got bigger and bigger. She's got massive hips, you know.
Yes, so these are nearly 45 inches. So this is a waistband in this kind of region, which means it was definitely towards the end.
Was 45.
Yes, so we're talking 1890s by then. Albert was dead, she didn't care, she's just having cake.
All those lovely puddings, though. You wouldn't regret a minute of it, would you? What would you like for breakfast? Jam, roly-poly, and custard.
Victoria sponge, please. Again.
And a larger pair of briefs.
Now, a question on pronunciation. Who would like to hear a Catherine Hepburn impression?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
Listen to me, mister, you're my knight in shining armor, and you're gonna get back on that horse, and I'll be right behind you. Where is that accent from?
The South in America?
Is it going to be Danish?
No, but if you were somewhere between Denmark and the United States.
Mid-Atlantic.
Yes, absolutely right, Nikki. It is the Mid-Atlantic.
That's not a country.
No, it's not. So the point is, it's not from anywhere. It was so named because it was halfway between the US and the British accent, and it was the accent in Hollywood films before sort of 1950. It was designed to be vaguely sort of British and aristocratic, and it was thought that it sounded appropriately posh.
They used to, in drama schools, train accents out of people.
Yeah.
Now, when I went to drama school, they didn't. They would still have a strong English accent now. Yeah, but they used to like knock off all the edges, so people ended up speaking all the time like these.
Yeah.
That's how British people speak.
But it was a thing in Hollywood films. There was a voice coach called Edith Skinner. She was actually a Canadian, and in the 1990s she taught this as good speech or Eastern Standard speech. She was talking about Catherine Hepburn, she was talking about Betty Davis, Vincent Price. They all learned to speak that way. Probably my favourite movie of all time, Some Like It Hot. Tony Curtis in that movie. He pretends doing a sort of Cary Grant impression. It still occasionally surfaces today. So Kelsey Grammer used it in Frasier. That was one of his things.
I got told that I had the worst Hindi accent that an English person had had on film. I am half Indian, by the way, I'm not going to be racist right now, but I was doing films and TV in Bombay, and I was told that my accent was totally the epitome of a British's bad Hindi accent. And that's from somebody who used the word epitome, and it's like, get your emphasis right, and then we can talk. Because the called silk sound. There's too much noise in Bombay. So it would all be done in the dubbing. So if you make a mistake or something, just go dubbing with Mojaiba. So it'll be done in the dubbing. So actually you could pretty much do anything if you could lip sync. But I had somebody sitting there who would deliver me the dialogue, and I was told to like look into middle distance and say things like Unka Falaudi Talwar Mazboot Hai, which which means his steel sword is very strong. God knows what that actually meant. And then I'd wait and stare a little bit longer, listen to the next dialogue and deliver it. That's how I acted.
What kind of things were you in then?
I want to see the rushes.
The Mid-Atlantic accent was used by lots of villains, so you get Jafar in Aladdin, Cruella de Vil has it, Darth Vader has it, the Evil Queen in Snow White. Anyway, there we are. This is Pickering's Harem. What huge discovery did they help make?
Is it Braille?
Is it Braille? Oh no, that's a very interesting choice.
Well, because they're all working very
They're
closely.
definitely researching something. It is one of the most astonishing discoveries. It is thanks to these women. The universe was discovered less than a century ago. So, 1923, Edwin Hubble found evidence that the universe existed outside the Milky Way, but he couldn't have done it without Henrietta Swan Leavitt, and that is her at the back. And she was a member of a group of astronomers known as Pickering's Harem. So basically what she did, she worked out how to measure distance from the Earth of pulsating stars, and when Hubble spotted one of those stars, he used her methods to calculate how far away it was, and he learned it was much too distant to be part of the Milky Way. I mean, it's unbelievable. It's less than a century ago he discovered the universe, but he couldn't have done it without her.
So when does she get co-credit?
Okay, so that is one of the extraordinary things. So Leavitt was employed by a man called Charles Pickering. There's Charles Pickering. He was the director of the Harvard Observatory from 1877. And originally he hired male staff in order to analyse all the data that was being collected from the observed sky. And he got so angry with the staff because he found them incompetent. And he said, my maid could do it better. And so they said, yeah, go on then. So he brought his maid and then she would do it better. In fact, she did it so well, he hired other what were known as female computers, more insultingly Pickering's Harem. And it's a classic thing in science, the Harem effect. It's a phenomenon whereby a male scientist in a position of power predominantly hires female assistants, probably because it's very less to get more assistance.
That's why this episode was so cheap to make.
It's a
Alan Davies QI.
Actually, Hubble himself, odd character. He claimed he'd fought a bear, he claimed he'd saved 2 women from drowning, he claimed he'd set up a successful law practice in Kentucky. No evidence for any of these things. And he smoked a pipe because he was British. He had a sort of fake British accent.
He had a mid-Atlantic accent as well.
He did.
Yeah.
Now, I've totally run out of questions, but I'm being told my elves have finally finished the procrastination questions. So we've got the... And my elf Anna, thank you very much. No, it's fine. Better late than never. Thank you, Anna. Yeah. When should we celebrate Procrastination Week?
Well, could do. I mean, I would say.
I need to clean my house, so after that.
After that, yeah. It is celebrated every year by the Philadelphia-based Procrastinators Club of America. It takes place at slightly different times each year. Usually the first couple of weeks in March, depends, how long it gets put off for. The club was formed in 1956. It's $20 membership if you're interested. This buys you a license to procrastinate and access to the monthly publication called Last Month's Newsletter. Lists upcoming events that have already taken place. They celebrate Christmas in June, the 4th of July in January, and they have a Be Late for Something Day on September the 5th. Their motto is behind you all the way. In 1966, they went on a bus tour brandishing a banner, Excursion to the New York World Fair, which had closed a year and a half earlier. And they recently ran a campaign to get the late President James Buchanan re-elected. He died in 1868. There are lots of famous procrastinators. The playwright, this is one of my favourite, Richard Sheridan, who wrote School for Scandal, he finished writing it as it was being performed on the opening night. In 1777, bringing down lines to the actors as they were on the stage. That is quite late.
That is leaving it a bit late.
Where does it come from? If I really suffer from it, I just always clean the house and do whatever. Where does it come from in the brain, or why do we do it?
Well, it's interesting because lots of people suffer a terrible shame and anxiety about it. And one of the things that they now think is that they're often perfectionists. They find it psychologically more acceptable never to tackle the task rather than to face the possibility of falling
Try and
short.
fail.
Yeah, you don't want to fall short on a performance. They have looked into ways to try and improve people's habits on this. So they did a report on the effectiveness of internet-based cognitive behavioral therapy in improving procrastination behavior. The main problem with the study was that people kept putting off doing the treatment. Leonardo da Vinci, so ultimate release. 25 years to finish The Virgin of the Rocks.
Is that a painting or is that an actual one?
It's from one of the Louvre. There's another one in the National Gallery. The Mona Lisa took 15 years. He lived to be 67. He actually only completed 15 paintings and a handful of architectural designs. And patrons going mad had to call in other people to come and finish. I have to say, this is absolutely true. We wrote to the Procrastinators Club because we were doing this question and they haven't got back to us. And now, if you're feeling clueless, we won't postpone it any longer. It's time for the soul-destroying chore that we call general ignorance. Fingers on buzzers, please. If you are settling something mano a mano, how are you doing it? Yes.
Man to man.
No, it's not man to man.
Ah, yeah.
It is hand to hand. That is the literal Spanish translation. So that dates back to the 1950s, but in fact it used to refer to a very particular Spanish sport.
Arm wrestling.
Is that a very particular Spanish?
Oh, sorry. There's arm wrestling.
Would it be bullfighting?
Would be bullfighting, absolutely. It used to refer to two bullfighters in a ring competing for the audience's attention by killing 3 bulls each, and it was used to imply that they were on equal footing to each other.
Wait, so they had to kill 3 each before the audience would even start watching?
I mean, I've never been to a bull. It wouldn't be my thing to go to a bullfighting. That was a
Don't go in that top, whatever you do.
It does look terrible. Look at this.
Well, his trousers look terrifying.
I think his arse is always that tight. Or it's the size of the bull.
I think his ass is acting on those trousers even as we speak.
Now, here's a brain teaser. What am I describing? Known as the Great War, the poppy is used to represent... Yes?
World War One.
Just let me finish. The main combatants were France on one side and the UK on...
Was it the World Cup in 1982?
It's Napoleonic. The Napoleonic Wars were the original Great War, and the poppy was the emblem of that war. Before battle, so in the case of the Napoleonic ones particularly, the land was often empty and barren, and afterwards these blood-red flowers would flourish. And the reason that scarlet corn poppies do so well on battlefields is because their seeds rely on light in order to grow. And so if the soil is disturbed tremendously, they emerge out of the dark earth and they're exposed to the sun's light, and poppies abound. So there was an American professor and humanitarian called Moina Bell Michael, and she was the one who conceived of using the poppy as a symbol of remembrance for World War I. She taught disabled servicemen at the University of Georgia, and she began to sell poppies to raise funds for them. And then in 1921, her idea was adopted by the American Legion, and later in that same year by the British Legion. So the poppy is an American idea from the Napoleonic Wars, which is not what you would think. Right, we'll end on a question about love and partnership. What do opposites do?
Attract.
No? They did a survey and 80% of people believe that to be true, but they examined the digital footprints of over 45,000 people, and it's really rare that opposites attract. On the contrary, it's people with similar personalities. So